and welcome to the Kimbley IT Podcast, the first of 2021 and technically the last of 2020. How you doing, Carl?
I'm all right, James. The last of 2020, those are the words we want to hear.
Because we were planning to do this at the last week of 2020, but it just got too difficult with having children around the place, so we postponed it till now. So this is like a surprise episode in that we didn't have it scheduled, but it's our annual review recap of the year. So we're just going to go through everything that we went through for the year. So it probably won't be that long, but it might be interesting for some people to know what's going on.
I don't know. Still quite a lot of stuff still happened in the year, considering the year itself.
Should we get straight into it then? Should we go straight into, unless you've got anything else you want to say in the intro? Or you have?
No, let's get into January 2020.
You're content.
Yeah.
Okay, January 2020. So first thing we did, we started off with a rebrand to the colours of the Kimbley IT logo. We just brightened them up, really. They were a bit duller than that before. And these are official colours from the material design. So previously when I picked the colours, I think I just picked colours. And they weren't quite material design colours.
Okay.
And I've always liked material design since Google introduced it probably 5 years ago or so now, maybe 5-6 years ago. And the one reason why I stuck with the logo is with the previous colour is just because all the merchandise had been made with that, and I didn't really want to have to bin it straight away.
Okay.
And so we changed the colours of the logos, just brightened them up, and the website and everything. So everything's got a slightly brighter colour. We called it electrifying at the time. And it still stands and still looks good and still looks bright at the moment. So we'll be sticking with the colours for a lot longer. What
is material design, James? For anybody who doesn't know.
It's just a way of using shadows and overlaying and stuff like that. We're not actually using the shadow part of material design. So it's meant to the original concept of material design was when you've got like two pieces of paper on top of each other and you can see them you can slide them across and slide them together and things like that. It's to have a smooth animation and to see the layers in the graphics, so that you can see that, okay, this layer is above that layer, so I can manipulate this layer and over the top of the layer below. So it goes along those lines.
It's a style of graphic design.
Yeah, it's just the colours that I liked. I've always liked the material design colours because if you don't know, the colours are actually symbolic.
Go on, you might as well say.
Well, I thought colours can become annoying if you see them too often. So I've always gone with naturally occurring colours, and when I say naturally occurring, I mean like in wildlife, because purple isn't a naturally occurring colour. In fact, it doesn't exist. It's your brain that produces that colour for you. But also like pink and stuff like that. They're in flowers, but you don't see that often. So as you know, we've got green, blue, and yellow. And green, well, you see grass, you see trees everywhere. So it's not an annoying colour because you see it everywhere. Blue is the sky, you see it all the time, so you don't think about it. Yellow is the sun, you see that all the time. It doesn't it's not an annoying color. You can get annoying combinations like what is it, yellow and green and stuff like that. I've just completely actually destroyed my argument there because we've got yellow and green in our logo, but like a football kit that's like a yellow and a green and a brown color and stuff like that.
Yeah, Norwich City.
Norwich City doesn't look nice together, does it?
No,
really. So that's the reason why. But it's based on natural colors anyway.
Okay.
It always has been. That's why it's always been the color brand.
Okay. I knew you'd have a reason.
That was the original reason. That's inside a cloud now, because a cloud is a natural shape as well that you see all the time.
Yep.
Then we might as well go on to this because it's a bit later down, but we then introduced the rainbow to the logo, didn't we?
We did actually within the NHS lockdown period, wasn't it? That.
Yeah. Well, it was part of that, and then it widened up to just representing everybody and everything, and the problem, all that kind of stuff.
Because the rainbow is also the adopted sign of LGBTQ community. It is the adopted sign of all-encompassing, isn't it? Rainbow by everybody. If you're in the rainbow, you're all-encompassing.
For me, it just stands for everything because it's a spectrum of every single color available. So it just stands for everything. It doesn't have any specific reason. It just covers everything.
I like it. It looked good. I like rainbows.
But we're actually going to get the logo because at the moment you can see on our merchandise, no one else can because they don't watch this, because we have but you'll see it on the thumbprint or stuff like that. We just have the standard logo at the moment, and we're about to get the new logo with the rainbow proofed, and then some new merchandise created for 2021 with that.
Yes, indeed.
The next point we've got on here for January is apparently a lot of new users because our clients were successfully growing.
We had a lot of people starting in the new year, didn't we?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. So much that I created a Google form for new users. for people to fill in, but we never actually pushed it out. I think I used it on one client, and that was it. And then it's just a lot of them know that they've got to give the first name and the surname of the user and a couple of details, so they stick that into the chat with us anyway.
That's right.
But you do get the ones that don't. But by the time you've sent them the form, you might as well just say in the chat, "Can you just tell me the first name and surname and these details?" So the form never really went anywhere.
I don't think it ever does when you're dealing with a certain size of a business. You're not dealing with a corporate. It just doesn't work. People don't do it.
Third thing was we actually advertised for the first time for a job role for a new salesperson. And oddly, we had actually zero interest basically in that on that first advert. We didn't really push it that hard, but it turned out that with what happens later in 2020, that was beneficial that no one actually joined at that point.
Yeah, and you also, I think we learned that a specific salesperson in the nature of what we do, where it's very much people need to see what we do, understand what we do, and come to us and say, "I'd like what you've got." A salesperson doesn't always kind of work because you've got to have them in for a long time to get familiar, and it costs you. I don't know, in IT, in what we do, IT support assistance, not always the best way. The best salesperson can just be your existing people doing things.
Yeah, I think we'll still look for one and still get one at some point. But as you said, it will take them a while. Well, we said it will take up to 6 months for them to get to understand the Kimbley IT way, master it before they actually become any good. But yeah, that's still something that's on the plans.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Not written off, but clearly we've understood quite a bit this year about the nature of the sales process, and more of that later on, I think.
We then launched a new support and assistance reporting system. So anyone that follows me on LinkedIn or my founders logs will see that monthly I brought out the statistics of how many people we've assisted, how many people have needed support, and a few other details about it. And that's the reporting system that we created. And it's actually become quite a useful sales tool in that we can actually show people that when we say support is literally like less than 2% of what we do, it's all about learning and assistance. We can just show them the actual statistics that prove it and back it up. We had one client that came on board this year, Carl, who was about 3 months ago. And during their go live, I took them to that sheet and they go, "Bloody hell, James, it's actually true. You don't do any support because everything just works. It's all about assistance," because they just saw the breakdown. And they were saying like the percentage was like 2% or something of actual support for that month. And 98% was just assistance, and it also showed how quickly it was done. It was something like 80% or something within the first, maybe 76% within the first 5 minutes that people got in contact. They had a reply and they were back to work.
That makes sense.
I didn't actually use that in the sales process for them. That was during their go live, but they were just impressed that actually my sales pitch wasn't a exaggerated one. It was actually what I was saying was there and factually backed up.
Yeah. And the funny thing about that is that even anecdotally, it works. Now thinking back, what's the thing I've spent the most time really having to fix that's broken? It's printers. We joke about it. It's on the website, but it's true.
Printers. Printers.
Always printers. Yeah.
And I often ask, what I find quite interesting is no other IT support company publish these statistics at all. I've mentioned it many times. Is anyone else going to publish theirs? And no one publishes their IT support statistics. So, which is odd because they could just make them up. I wouldn't know. You're just publishing it on LinkedIn. You can make it up and make it better, but no one does that because they just can't do the level that we're doing.
Yeah, of course. They could be made up. Nobody knows that they're the truth. You could just BS all of this stuff. However, we know it's the truth, and our customers know it's the truth because, like you said, you've shown it to them. So if anybody ever did push us on it, go, "Oh, okay, here's the stats," and I've got people who tell you, "Yep, they're telling the truth." Yeah, no one else puts them out, James, because what they'll put out is thousands of tickets unresolved in hours, and they wouldn't want anyone to see that mess.
You might remember back in January, I got a business lead and a equestrian lead of somebody who.
It was my one, wasn't it?
No, this was the one from the Google Next, where the guy who I used to go to school with just spotted me as I was walking through the thing.
The medical veterinarian equestrian thing.
Yeah. Turned out later to be a bit of a complete waste of time, actually. Pretty annoying because we spent some time showing them the best ways of doing it, all that kind of stuff. Introduced them to one of our clients as well to do accountancy, and they also wasted our clients' time as well. Which I didn't know about. It was when I get on well with the owner of that company, and she gave me a call and just told me, hey, watch out, James, these guys have wasted our time. They're probably wasting your time as well. And it turned out that, yeah, they were. So even though this guy I'd known back at school, hadn't seen me for 20 years, he approached me and all that kind of stuff. He just was more than happy to waste our time, it turned out. So we that was the end of that. We shut the door on them and not dealing with them anymore. But because they had old systems they needed to update, and everything they wanted Google Workspace did for them, along with Zero and the integrations and stuff like that. Yeah. But they just, I don't know what the guy was on. He just couldn't say, yes, I want to go with it. Just wasting time, constantly ringing. He was ringing up every so often to keep us updated on the situation and all that kind of stuff. It was never moving. It was never going anywhere. It's like, why are you even bloody ringing me? There's no point in this. It's not going anywhere.
It's hilarious when people do that. I might ring Tesco in a bit and say, I'll probably come down for some groceries soon. Yeah. Keep you up to date on that one.
Yeah. So we shut that lead down in the end. It just wasn't. I probably gave him a bit more time than I normally would, hence being the school relation and all that. Yeah. But that was the end of that one. And then we had a lead from one of our accountants that ghosted us. So I think this is our old accountant, isn't it?
Yeah, I went and did a talk at our old accountant's breakfast meeting, and there was a company that were involved in weighing scales. They got in touch. They said, come over to them, which I did. I traveled half an hour or so and had a meeting with them, and it all looked great. I mean, they had a system, James, what was it, 25-year-old DOS-based system that ran their entire business, and they seemed very keen. And then suddenly, not so much. Now I got to deal with the PA, not the owner of the business, and they just ghosted. After I'd said to them in the meeting, if you want to ghost me, just tell me now you don't want it, and it's fine. Like, just tell me no worries. Just tell me no anytime. And they wouldn't do that, and then they ghosted us. I imagine they bought some cheap IT support, and they'll be toast at some point if they don't change that system. Their business will be dead.
Yeah, you always know leads going bad when as soon as they go, oh, here's the office admin you can chat to now for all the follow-ups. It's like, no, not doing that.
That's it. Yeah, they wanted me to come back and stuff, and I was like, no, not doing it. No, I know where this is going. I'm not interested. And in fact, I believe wasn't that the one that we caught out, actually? Because they were trying to say, they came up with some reason for something, and then I came back with a reply that you should send to them, a smart reply, and it was like, and based on the way they replied back, it would either show that they were lying initially or stuff like that. There was something on that one. I can't remember exactly. We'd have to go back through the emails, but there was something where for some reason, they'd made an excuse up for not being able to sign an agreement at some point. Yeah, I can't remember. There was some hoo-ha over phones, and we were talking about Google Voice as well in that mix. They just wasted our time.
Yeah, so January, two leads that became waste of times. February was an interesting month because I actually visited CompTIA in Manchester. So CompTIA is a industry body, I guess, for IT support companies. It was the only event that I went to in 2020, and it was interesting because it was just at the start of COVID and rumors about it coming out, and there's this disease going around, and some of the people who I get on well with at CompTIA, they pulled out. They didn't go because because of the rumors about COVID going around and spreading. I went there, and it was interesting actually because after I left the event, because it was 2 days there, and it was a buffet food and stuff like that, so germs are going to get past no matter what you do. I got ill after that event. Got ill with a cough and all that kind of stuff. But as I rewatched my February vlog, founders log about that. Yeah. And you can't be sure if you've got it or not. You never know if you've had it or not. It's just a cough. But it was interesting. I got ill after that.
Of smell and taste? I can't remember.
No, I didn't lose my smell and taste. But at the time, no one knew what the symptoms were apart from a cough. That was the symptoms at the time. It's just a cough, and maybe struggling to struggling to breathe potentially.
Yeah, struggling to breathe and a persistent cough was really it, wasn't it?
Yeah, and all I got was the cough for a while afterwards. So it was interesting. But that was my only event I went to, and then in February you actually signed up a new accountancy firm as well.
Yes, Beach Accountants.
Yes.
Yeah, we've been talking to them for a little while, haven't we, from late in 2019, and then we actually got them to put electronic pen to paper, and they've been a great client, and they continue on throughout the year. They've been really good. I'll save the good, juicy stuff to a bit later on for them.
Yeah, when we get to that month.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
So you take over. You've got a couple of points here you've got in February that I've not entered.
Well, one of the things that happens when you deal with some of your customers is you have to work with some third-party bits of software. And Charade, who are our clients who repair the premium vehicles, the Lamborghinis and the Ferraris and the Porsches, etc., they also repair all BMW's range of vehicles. And they had a new BMW laptop system, the ISTA system for talking to the car. And I've become the go-to guru for that system. As much as you'd say, okay, well, you go to BMW support. As with these things, it doesn't work like that because BMW are a little bit big and lean back on people and go, no, you need to sort it out. We'll give you the links, we'll give you the documents, but you need to work it. So I've spent the entirety of the year being quite good at fixing the ISTA system and updating that laptop and speccing out what laptops they need to talk to the cars and all that kind of business.
So you're technically an important technician now in their team because they're looking at the computers.
Technician, because they've got me, they've gone, you need to do it now, Carl. We can't update 4 cars or something. Yeah. So that's kind of funny with that.
What's interesting, I guess you've probably learned as well, is how bad the software is that these big German car companies use.
The BMWs, I'll give it credit, is probably the best one I've dealt with so far. And I've worked with the Teslas, Volvos, Volkswagens, Mercedes so far. And BMWs is probably the most modern. Teslas is quite modern, but you don't get to see much of it. It's kind of all hidden, which is very Tesla, isn't it?
Isn't Mercedes one of the worst?
Mercedes was dreadful. It was really old. Yeah, it was a really old system on an old Windows 7 computer. Now they have a new one there at Charade at the moment. And of course, Mercedes are a little bit frustrating with that because of how they deploy it and make the customer accept the kit. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but they do have a new Windows 10 one. But at the moment, I can't help them because we don't have admin rights. And I've had to go back to them and say, you need to go back to Mercedes and say, you need to give us the admin rights because our IT guys can't help. So when we get stuck, what do we do?
Yeah.
So I'm hoping we'll get that in a way. Because I want to help the customer, not because I want more work on my plate. I also was Effective Accounting, another one of our accountancy customers, and they had more training from us, which is always good when people get some training. I like it. They're learning.
And February is interesting because going along with the accountancy, we went to Inform Accounting, and it was the only time in the year that you and I have met up, and we haven't met up since in real life.
No, I couldn't quite believe that when you first told me. And then I was like, oh, okay. And I was like, he's right. I can't believe it's been nearly a year.
Yeah, nearly a year. We've not met up in person.
Which is a great example for anybody listening that thinks, can I have remote workers? Could I have like a remote manager or PA that's remote? Yes, you can. James and I run this business between us, and we haven't met for nearly a year. He's probably quite happy about that, to be honest with you. It's probably preferable. He's laughing now on camera. I can see him. He enjoyed that. I don't want to spend too much time with me, but it worked.
We'll have a good sushi meal when we finally do meet up. We've got a lot of leads to celebrate.
10 trays,
yeah.
Which I suggest James could probably have a crack at if he was.
Based on the price of sushi, though, we might not have much left in the company bank account afterwards.
Well, yeah, it's not the cheapest of food. Yeah, but it is good. I've digressed, but it is good.
Here we go then. March is where the first lockdown kicked in when Boris went on TV. Was it the 23rd of March or 24th, something like 21st, 23rd, 24th, something like that? I listened to it on the radio this morning, but I've forgotten what it is.
I can't remember. I think it was like the third week of March, wasn't it?
Yeah, and announced the first lockdown. And based on LinkedIn, when I was looking on LinkedIn, I could see how all the other IT companies have been helping their clients, moving, getting VPNs installed, getting all the hardware across, getting them to move it and plug it in at their homes and stuff like that. We didn't do any of that. Our clients just had the smoothest of transitions of all time. They went home with their laptops or went on their own computers at home, went to gmail.com, logged in. That was it. They had absolutely access to everything they needed, all their documents, all their emails, everything. It was actually that point that I realized that some clients who weren't 100% understood why we insisted on, at the time, it's Google Workspace now, but it was G Suite at the time, why we insisted on it so much to use it. And I think the lockdown actually showed them, because we had loads of owners and stuff like that saying, couldn't believe it. It's just, we didn't have to do anything at all. We just went home and started working. There was no difference. It just worked immediately. And we literally had no one contact us on that day, or even not even that day, probably for that week or so.
The only contact we had was literally people saying, "Oh, by the way, guys, we're all going home." Like that was it. Like, we're going home. We're going to take our computers home, and we were like, "Okay, yeah, fine. Don't forget all the wires. Like, pick all the wires up, and then when you get home, plug it all in. And if you have any problems, tell us."
Yeah, well, some clients we didn't even know they'd moved out of their office because they'd not been in contact.
It had all gone, and we had no idea. Yeah, we've gone. Oh yeah, we got a couple of days early, didn't they? They'd already predicted. Yeah.
It was just unbelievably smooth, and literally the only problem we had plaguing us for the first few weeks was the bloody Lenovo webcams, wasn't it? Going through loads of webcams not starting up.
Legendary bug that made us think we shouldn't buy Lenovo kit, and then at some point I dug into the rubbishy software that comes with Vantage and found a toggle switch for turn camera off.
It was the Lenovo software. It had a privacy mode built in that was on by default. So if you fired up your webcam, it wouldn't actually fire up your webcam because there was this hidden privacy mode switch. Once you turn that off, that was it. The webcam would work, but it would take us a long time to find that. There's a lot of times where we were just uninstalling and reinstalling drivers and going, "What the hell's going on here?" Because sometimes that would fix it, and sometimes it wouldn't.
It was there, yeah. You wouldn't know unless you read some PDF somewhere.
It wasn't even like it. It was proper hidden switch inside that Lenovo Vantage software.
Oh yeah, I was digging through settings as you do as a techie guy. You wouldn't have stumbled upon that as an average person using their computer.
That was pretty much the only pain point we had.
Yeah, I enjoyed the fact that most people didn't need to take a printer home too, which was good. I was like that. No printers, good.
Yeah.
And on a personal note, in March, I started running because Boris said we could take an hour's exercise a day. So I decided I should. And so I started running a measly 1 kilometer a day at that point. And we'll carry on with this journey throughout the year.
One of the reasons we're getting new merchandise done and a new logo, because you've lost so much weight.
I have lost some weight. I have consistently lost 1.5 stone, James, since prior to that lockdown period. Yeah, consistent now. I'm on the scales and I'm consistent 12 stone. And I'm not like on a diet or anything. It's the running that enables me still to have a pie, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Then, so that was March.
Then April.
Home testing kits, of course.
Yes, I had some home kits because again, back in April, we developed a cough in the family. Don't know how, because we're all in lockdown, but we developed a cough somehow. We thought maybe it was from a delivery driver. So we had because we're actually classed as critical workers in IT for infrastructure and stuff like that. We were able to get home testing kits delivered and gave them a whirl. It wasn't too bad. Everyone goes, it's a bad experience. It's not too bad. It's pretty easy to do, really. And sent them back. And
didn't you? You did your own swabbing.
Yeah. Did it. I've done it. I've had done it twice now, I think. So one at home, and then we went to Jersey later in the year. But we didn't have it. Sadly, we didn't have COVID. We were really hoping we did have it, because if we had it, it would have been such a mild version of it. It would have been fantastic, because then I'd have had a bit of immunity built in as well, just naturally from defeating it.
I was concerned about you because whenever I've known you to be unwell, James, it always gets on your chest and you have to have antibiotics. So I was genuinely around this point quite actually concerned for, shall we, you've done it for, in quotations, the business, because I was worried, right, well, the founder could be seriously ill here because of it. But no, it didn't happen. So it wasn't an issue to be concerned about. And there's you going, I want to get it. And I'm like, I don't want him to get it.
Interestingly, 2020 was one of the best years I've had. I didn't have a single chest infection in 2020.
Well, it makes sense, really, doesn't it? With the way it's been, it's protected. Yeah, because normally you have a couple of instances a year of rotten cough, and you have to cancel the podcast because you can't get your voice right and stuff. Yeah.
Did I put this next point in? Probably. So it looks like my writing. Our value really shone through with clients as the second month of lockdown commenced.
Yeah, who else would write our value really shone through? That has to be you.
Sounds a bit too quickly, that does.
That's not me.
Okay.
Again, tasks didn't. That's what we started to show people. They were doing the same stuff, and then we started making little videos. Try this now, videos about them.
Yeah, we started pumping up our videos. Yeah. So when we had a number of people asking the same thing, rather than having to reply to each of them, we would just produce a video, stick it on our YouTube channel, and just send them a link to that. And we know that some clients are bookmarking them in their company bookmarks.
Two biggies, weren't there? One was the blog post on how to restart Google Drive file stream. That's a huge one. And the second was how to import a CSV from Zero into Sheets video. Those are the two biggies. And
they got done well because, as I just said, some of the clients are saving it into their own knowledge bases, those videos, so that they can just get them straight away rather than having to contact us for the link or anything like that when they get the same problem occur.
Yep.
And likewise, we did it with the blog posts as well. We brought a lot more how-to guides on our blog posts on the blog, which is just useful because it's, again, not having to type something out each time and telling people we just send them a link to it. And because it can be branded, they know that it's not us linking just to any old random website that we've Googled. It's actually something that we put some effort into to create a nice guide. So much so that Google really loves our guides, and we often appear in the snippets in Google search.
Is always a snippet, I only have a bit of it in to find the link, and it's straight up every time.
Yeah, I've had it a couple of times where I've typed in something into Google, and actually our blog post has appeared. It's like, that's useful.
Yeah, it's nice when you're like the snippet at the top of your own stuff. You're like, wow, that's cool.
Yeah, we're in quite a lot of snippets. Completely skews the analytics on the website because we get a huge amount of traffic from the US because Google Workspace is massive in the US. So we get a lot of traffic from there for people looking at these specific how-to articles that we created.
I've added there something about the printers not going home, which I previously mentioned. But the lockdown has helped people deal with the concept of the paperless office a little bit better because they haven't got their big office photocopier and they might not have a printer at home. No, not everyone has a printer at home. And if you do, you have one of them inkjet things that costs 50 quid to print a piece of paper, so they don't. And people have got better, I feel, this year at not printing as much. Even
for sure.
Problems with printers. What it's been is it's generally been one person in a company who has a problem with the printer, like maybe the receptionist or somebody like who has to print the odd thing. But generally, people have stopped printing.
Yeah, because we, as you know, we always push only print if you have to post it.
Yeah.
That's our motto for printing. But whenever someone does get in contact about a problem with a printer, it's because they've returned to the office. And, for some reason, when they come back to the office, then all of a sudden they want to print again.
Yeah. It's because it's there, they can see it.
Yeah, and they're not paying for the paper or the ink.
True. So we're May now.
Yeah, we're on to May. So this is where CJP Homes, who are a construction company, became a client. And the interesting thing was they became a client within a 24-hour window. So they saw one of our ads on LinkedIn, clicked on the ad, filled it in. We contacted them almost immediately, I think it was.
Yeah.
Got onto a video call with the two owners.
Yep.
Had probably about a 40-minute chat. It was a good chat, went all well, and they signed up immediately. And they've probably got how many people in their business? 12, 13, 14, something like that.
I think something like that. With a few of those being like site managers and stuff out in the field, you don't see so much because they're just on tab.
And so they've been clients since May, and it's going well. And they've actually really started using Google Workspace well. They're one of the companies that we had to deploy a load of Android tablets for, so that they could have. Remember, you had them in those enclosures as well, those special rugged enclosures.
I went out to see them, James, and it was still lockdown, but I went out with my mask and stuff like that, and they were all chatting away. And of course, they've been working throughout the entirety of the period because they're in construction. Yeah. And a lot of work that they do is for the borough of Wolverhampton and Sandwell and Dudley and stuff. So they'd all been working. To them, it was like, nothing's changed. And it was interesting because they didn't really have any big problem. They didn't come to us because they were in the storm, you might say. They just decided we're not efficiently working the way we want to do, and we want to grow the business properly. And
they're already using Google Workspace
at the right time, and we had everything, and we said the right stuff.
They were already using Google Workspace, and they knew that the owners knew that they shouldn't be spending. Yeah, the owners knew they shouldn't be spending their time having to manage Google Workspace and all the IT stuff, and they needed to outsource it. So, as you said, perfect timing.
It was indeed. Yes. People who were starting to feel the pain of lockdown.
Yeah, so we had one client who's in the marketing industry, and during the first lockdown, that was an issue because no one knew what was happening, and therefore a lot of clients that they had were putting their budgets on hold for marketing. and they weren't getting any decent income coming in. So they had called us up. I've known them. They're one of our oldest clients, to be fair, and I get on well with the owners. And they'd called up, being honest about the situation they were facing, and they didn't know what they were going to do. They wanted to. They were out of contract, and they wanted to think about ending support. And I said, tell you what, we'll give you free support for the next 6 months. So that you guys can carry on focusing on your business. We'll look after the IT. Don't worry about it. We'll get that all sorted for you. In return, we'll have a chat after 6 months and get you on a new agreement signed up. And yeah, they had 6 months free support of us looking after their IT, which massively helped them out. And that's just what you have to do, just to help them out. It also, in my head, there was some business went in my head, which I told them as well, that, hey, look, it's cheaper for me to give you free support than go out now and try and find a new client to replace you guys. So I'm more than happy to give you free support than that. As long as we have an agreement in September time or something like that, we'll sign up in a new agreement. And they've done that. They've had their 6 months free, and they've now signed a new agreement. And this time around, it's not an issue because of, well, everyone knows what happened in the first one. You have to turn your marketing back on. People have to carry on marketing. Businesses have to, so their budget has come back on, and they've got it all sorted now.
Yes. Yeah, it worked out really well. You mentioned that to me at the time and said, I think this is the right thing to do, Carl. And I said to you, yeah, I agree. Yeah, absolutely. It costs us nothing to do this. And they've been a great customer of this business for a long time, longer than I've been here. And so I said, yeah, it sounds to me like the right move. And it worked out. They're appreciative. They'd had people had to go, redundancies had to happen. They had to really restructure their company.
Yeah, they're not the greatest at communicating, but when they do communicate, it's always very honest and open. And there was a lot of thanks afterwards for what we've done over the 6 months and stuff like that.
Yeah, you did some negotiating, and you loved that.
Yeah, it was all good fun.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, here we go. This is a interesting one that you brought in.
Yes, we ended the relationship with a community business in Moseley that we had been working with. Those of you who know Kimbley IT will know that our base head office is the Moseley Exchange. Obviously, we've not been there for a long time with the lockdown, and we have a strong connection in the business to Moseley. James grew up there, and his mom still lives in the Moseley area. And so we got involved with a community project there to put some Wi-Fi in and things like that. And they had a manager there who was a great guy.
This wasn't at the Moseley Exchange, by the way.
No, this isn't the Moseley Exchange. It was a different project. And the guy who managed it used to run the custard factory, the bar and stuff. So he was a good guy, and I used to chat with him a lot because I used to go raving at the bar that he used to manage. But unfortunately, we ran into some stickling problems with the board of trustees with this, and they wouldn't commit to anything.
Sadly, the manager is a fantastic guy. If he was in charge, it'd be a highly successful place. But he had a board of trustees who wouldn't commit, wouldn't communicate. And unfortunately, he had no decision-making powers at all, so he couldn't make any decisions either without them agreeing. Yeah. And in the end, it turned out they got 6-7 months behind on their bills, so much so that we had to get a legal representative to go in and send them a letter to tell them they better pay these bills shortly, or they're going to have a big liability on their hand. They did pay all those bills in the end. And then after that, they then decided, we want to sign up with you and work with you. But we turned them down. We turned them down because of the way they treated us over the last 6 or 7 months, just ignoring stuff and things like that. And we just don't want to work with you. If you're like that, you've proven your colours. The board has, and we're not going to go back on that decision. Yeah,
it was quite amusing because they were then kind of like, well, surely you want to chase us up? Surely you want to work with us? And they didn't quite understand when we went, no, it's fine.
Yep.
You can get your money.
Yeah, don't know what's happened to them. We did advise them to talk to another IT company. I don't know if they signed up with that IT company or not, but they didn't either.
I have no idea. As far as I know, I bet that went nowhere. They'll just leave that stuff.
So in June, we signed up probably the brand that's most known on LinkedIn out of all of our clients, Zap Shelter.
Yes.
Craig and his family, whose family-run business, Zap Shelter. We've been chatting with them for years and years and years, and always had a bit of fun and all that kind of stuff. And
there were a lot of bands Office 365 with them.
Yeah. And then they got hit hard by Office 365, and it wouldn't function for them anymore because their domain name had been blacklisted and all this kind of stuff.
Yep.
So they had to move to Google Workspace.
They were in a tricky spot, and they turned to us. guys, what can you do to help us? And we said we have the answer.
Well, Craig was totally fed. Craig was fed up with Microsoft, and he'd been fed up with it for a while. And you know, he knew that we were the guys to chat to. He wanted to go to Google Workspace, so he got in contact. And yeah, it's been a good relationship since.
Yeah, it has. There was a few things to get sorted at the start, of course, when you transition
problems.
Lifetime of options to Google, but it went well. And you know, right now it's rock solid for them guys. They crack on.
Yeah. They're taking advantage of it. We're still guiding them on things to do. There's a couple of guys who still try and say the E word every so often. You know the E word.
Yeah, I know that word. There's only one at the moment. We'll sort him out.
And but we get them into the Google Sheets world instead, and yeah, it's all gone really well.
That's right.
And then in June I actually visited the client for the first time in 3 months.
Yeah.
And that was Adam at Belmont Healthcare. So they're our care home business, who surprisingly have been okay through the lockdown. They hadn't been hit hard like other care homes and stuff like that. They did really good.
Not the first one.
Did really good protections in place and stuff like that. And it was really just to drop off some equipment because we weren't able to visit the lodges. The lodges are down in Kent anyway, so we don't really want to go and visit them because it's a long way away.
It's a hell of a trek.
But yeah, they had some equipment that needed to be dropped off. It was a bunch of telephones and Android tablets and stuff like that for the residents to use to be able to communicate with their families because they're in lockdown and the families weren't able to visit. So there's tablets there that we could do video calls on and stuff like that. So we dropped them off at Adam, who's the MD, as I said, and he took them down to the lodges. And the nice thing is because it was done through, they're on Google Workspace, we had all the Android management tools, so they were all pre-set up. So as soon as they turned them on, they basically only had to connect them to Wi-Fi and everything was ready to go and used straight away.
Yeah, it's good that. You do a little video of that one?
I did do a video. I did the only two founders logs that I did, founders videos that we did was you and I back in February at Inform Accounting do the network setup, reconfiguring, and then this visit to Adam. The vlog camera didn't get much action in 2020.
No, he didn't, did it?
And I don't think it's going to get much action in 2021 either, to be fair.
Not for the first 6 months anyway.
And then I think you've added this because you put me, I don't talk in the third person, but there we go. James spoke to a lead in the cycling world. Yeah, this was a place up in Scotland, and what they do is they recycle bicycles.
Yeah.
Really cool business, really interesting business. They would have been perfect, actually. I was ashamed that they couldn't commit. But they Google Workspace. If you look at a Google promotional video of maybe like a bakery in downtown New York who's using Google Workspace to manage their stores and stuff like that, this business would have been like one that they'd use in a Google promo video, just because the people there, the young people, nice looking setup, or you've got a really nice manufacturing base for the bicycles and stuff like that. But yeah, unfortunately, because I think they were a non-profit.
Yes, they were.
They run as a non-profit. They're making good money, but run as a non-profit. But unfortunately, the MD just couldn't commit to the cost that it takes to partner with Kimbley IT. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah,
which was a shame because I'd really like them to be a client, but the prices they wanted to pay were prices that there's no way I'm going to ever go down to that level. It's just not interesting for me.
No, it wasn't profitable for us. It wasn't going to be the right thing to do.
Yeah. So yes, when you know when to walk away, you have to know when to walk away when negotiating. July. So yeah, we actually got it's another new accountancy firm that came on board, and this one was quite interesting because they got offices in Guernsey and Malta. And because they got offices in Guernsey, that actually inspired me to go to Jersey later in the year, because I never even thought about going to Guernsey or Jersey.
Okay.
I couldn't find anywhere in Guernsey to stay, but Jersey, which is a bit further down, a bit warmer, went to Jersey instead, and had a superb holiday in Jersey for I think it was a week or so, just over a week.
You had a week off work, yeah.
And we did actually pop into Guernsey, in that I had no idea of this, but when we went on the ship across, because we went on the slow ship on the way across, which I thought would be a great idea, great experience, Worst decision of my life, that was. It was
Why?
super choppy weather. It was basically a storm, and 9 hours on a ship going up and down. I don't get sick. Well, I've never been seasick before because I go annual sea fishing.
Yeah.
I've never had a problem with that in the Irish Sea. But this one was 9 hours on it. I was feeling bad. Everyone was feeling bad. It was just non-stop. And it was the banging was incredible when the ship was coming off the waves, going back into the water. And you thought, okay, the car's destroyed. There's no way the car's going to make it through this.
They strap them down though, don't they?
No. I think they only strap them down if it looks like a car's moving, where the handbrake's not on properly or the brakes have failed, something like that. But apart from that, they don't get strapped down. They'll put some wedges under the tires if the car's parked in a different direction to where the roll of the ship and stuff like that. But either way, it actually stopped in on Guernsey on the way over, which probably added an extra 3 hours to the stop because it stopped in Guernsey to all 4 people there, and then it was probably at another 2 hours, 3 hours, including the stop to Jersey. And the most frustrating thing about ship size, how slow they enter port. It's unbelievable. Seriously, that adds at least an hour to your journey just because of the slowness they have to enter in port. It's something ridiculous, like 7 miles per hour, 7 knots per hour, or something like that. Really, really slow.
Yeah.
And it just takes ages and ages. And you're looking at this port, and then it's like an hour later, you're still looking at the port and you're still moving towards it. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah, that's got to be infuriating.
In July, we had so talking about Belmont Healthcare, they were doing a new Wi-Fi installation at one of their care homes. But as the team was driving down there, they hit the M25, and one of them got a call from the NHS track and trace. One of them may have been exposed to COVID, so they had to abort and come back home. Some ways, chatting with Adam afterwards, it was better that it happened then than it did the following day once they'd been in the care home.
Yeah.
None of them actually had COVID. None of them caught it, but the track and trace had advised them to go home, so they did, and that actually postponed that installation quite a few months after that.
Yes, it did indeed. Yeah, it took ages, didn't it, before we got to get that finished.
Talking about holidays, you went to Anglesey.
I did. I managed to actually have 5 days off work. I went to Anglesey with my daughters and my mum and dad to stay up there for a week, which was pleasant enough, and that was it. That was all I managed to do this year myself. And I got out to one of our customers again for the first time in ages to charade, put some laptops in there, got the opportunity because they've still been working repairing cars throughout all of this. And I managed to sneak into Birmingham to see my friend Lee Robinson for some beers. He has his business out of WeWork. So I went to see him at WeWork and took advantage of the free beer that they offer at WeWork.
Oh, yeah, because we did. We had a client that worked in was in WeWork, and I think didn't you go to visit them, and they'd moved and they hadn't told us.
Oh yeah, they'd moved. Yeah, they did that twice on us, and don't tell us where they are. Yeah,
we have a client, another marketing agency, and every so often they move offices.
Yeah,
but they don't tell us they moved offices, so we turn up for a site visit and they're not there. No. I guess it just shows how good the system is, in that they're not even needing us to plug it in at their new place; they're able to do it themselves.
That's right.
August. So in August, I actually went down to Kent. This was for a different home in Kent to do a Wi-Fi survey for the day. So I drove down there. It was quite the one nice thing about lockdown is traffic. There's no traffic anymore. You just get anywhere on the road, especially during August. And it only took me about 3 hours to drive down. I was there for about an hour and a bit doing the survey with Matt, and then headed back up. And it took us about 3 hours to get back as well.
Yeah.
And to get that Wi-Fi survey done. And you took part in an online charity event. Was it a Love Run one? I'm not sure. Or have I put that in wrong?
Yeah, I think it came via Love Run. It wasn't specifically one of theirs. It was a standard online Zoom type thing. It was okay. It was all right. Again, these things are a little bit hit and miss. And the problem with the charitable sector is that they're all super interested in what you've got to offer and how you can improve their businesses, but none of them can commit to the spend.
Yeah, it's one annoying thing with charities, because charities run as a business and they actually make a lot of profit, but then because they're a charity, they have this assumption that they should get stuff cheaper.
It's a bit of that, and I think it's also an assumption that every bit of penny they make should go to the good causes, and what they don't realise is that if you don't invest in the charity, it can't grow and make more money for the good causes, and you'll get stuck just being this size of a charity, and actually you're letting down the people you're trying to help. You've got to invest to grow it. You can't rely on freebies forever. It's not going to work.
Yeah. Too many people rely on free stuff.
Yep.
September. So yeah, this is actually where we deployed a lot more tablets as well for two customers. So
tablets went into the construction company.
Yeah, in September and for the care homes, and it was probably really the first time that we'd really heavily used Google Workspace's Android management system along with organizational units. Because these were devices that weren't actually assigned to people, they were assigned to multiple people. So we had to put a lot of controls in on how these devices could be used and couldn't be used.
Yeah.
And yeah, it got quite, I liked it because it's a logic challenge, because you've got a tree that you're nesting people into these branches off the tree to have access to certain things. And okay, I want these 3 tablets to be able to do that. And I want this 4th one to be able to do the same thing, but also do this as well. And it's just getting the combinations and getting the structure correct. I quite enjoy doing that.
Yes, you did. Yes. And it is complex.
So talking about Beach Accountants, so it's back in March when they became, was it March, did we say they became a client, or was it February?
February, March time, that's right. And I got the chance to finally visit them in South Shields in the northeast.
Yeah, because they had to go live without us, didn't they? Because they went live and lockdown was around, so we couldn't come and visit them.
That's right. That's right. And it didn't matter. And really, the purpose of going mostly was they just wanted to see me. They would like, can we see you face to face now that we can? We'd like to do that. I chatted through a few things, got to see the lay of the land and stuff like that up there. It really was not a technical visit. It was just a customer visit, a chance to go and see them and stuff like that.
And because we weren't able to do the initial go live, we'd been a bit more flexible on them. And when you went to visit them, you then got rid of Excel and moved them over to Google Sheets, because during the lockdown, it was going to be hard for us to get them to move across when we're not actually there or present and stuff like that, and get them trained up on it. So Carl did that while he was there, got them off Excel and over to using Google Sheets. And they don't have anything installed on their computer that's Microsoft apart from Windows.
Yeah, that was it. I spoke with the owner of one of the directors of the business and told him this was the plan. Excel's going, you don't need it. And he was like, okay, cool. And I said, well, you got to lead by example, so I'm going to take yours off right now. You're going first. And he was like, all right. I said, look, anytime you need help, you ask, we'll sort you out. There's nothing you can't do. So it's not a problem. And we've led with that, and it's happened. And you know what? They just got on with it. No.
And in September, we also saw a big pickup on Google Voice. So Google Voice had been around for a few months. They'd introduced ring groups. So a lot of clients have been holding off it because they needed ring groups. So when someone comes in, multiple phones ring, and anyone who rings can pick up the call. And ring groups got launched in September, and then we saw quite a bit of a pickup. So people like Belmont and some of the accountancy firms, they all moved to Google Voice, and they've loved it so far.
Yeah. Yep.
And then we had our first big guest on the Kimbley IT podcast, Tony Saforin, who's the founder of SADA. So SADA is a big Google Premier partner. They've been around for as long as Kimbley IT, but they focus on. They're actually originally an IT support company before they fully went into just doing Google Workspace solely and Google Cloud, and they're enormous. My Google Assistant just went off then, said the word too much. But they're a big company. It was nice that we got Tony on there. He had a lot of interesting stuff to say, and people he interacted with in Google. And that episode kind of changed the Kimbley IT podcast forever, in that after we had that episode, rather than us having to go out and find people who wanted to go on the podcast, we were getting people asking if they could come on the podcast.
Yes, indeed. We did. Yeah.
How influential Tony is in the Google world. So a lot of thanks there for Tony, because he really got the Kimbley IT podcast up to the next level, and
he raised that listening to
it.
Yep, definitely.
Go back and never listen to that episode. Should have written the episode number down, but I can't remember. Just search for Tony in our podcast stream.
Yeah, I can't remember where it is either, but you can find it.
And then we got then it's moved on to October, didn't we? And we actually deployed our first lot of Google Voice desk phones. So we don't really like desk phones. We prefer people to use Google Voice in their laptop or the mobile app on their mobile phone. Desk phones are kind of old-fashioned because they're just a fixture that you can't really move around or do much with.
Yeah.
But in some circumstances, they're useful or even a requirement. So again, this was going into a care home environment, and they need desk phones because they needed to make sure that phones were always in certain rooms. So if they've got an emergency, someone can run to one of the rooms and know, oh, there's going to be a phone there. If they're all on mobile phones, well, where's the mobile phone? Someone's put it somewhere else and they can't find it and things like that. So they had to have fixed point desk phones. So what was really impressive was how amazing it was to set the desk phones up. Google has made it so easy. It's probably the nicest deployment they've got on the whole of Google Workspace. It uses a Google Sheet, enter the detail, and it's just automated the whole thing. It's just absolutely super. Really loved it. Can't wait for my next load of desk phones just because of how easy it is to deploy.
Yeah, you can't remember you telling me about it. You made it dead easy. This is mint. It's a really good way of doing it.
Yeah, super. Literally, the only bit of time is getting the serial numbers, but once you've got that, the rest of it's just automated.
Sorted, and it was.
And then we had Richard DeVere, who is the cybersecurity guy, come on the podcast.
Yeah.
Anti-social engineer. He's all about social engineering. That was a superb episode, and it was one of the longest we did. And you and Richard had a lot of brotherly love going on during that podcast. I pretty much didn't have to say anything during that one.
Yeah, I really enjoyed speaking with Richard. He was great. There was a lot of crossover from my history in a more technical background, and I enjoyed it very much. A good guy, really easy to talk to. And yeah, we were just nattering away.
One of the highlights of the podcast that year. So also have a listen to that one. And then we decided to introduce, because we like to visit clients, and it's not really possible when it's the lockdown. So we decided to, and also clients are very far away. So we introduced monthly or quarterly video calls with clients. So this is everyone in their company can come on a video call with us and just discuss IT and anything. Because a lot of times people don't report when they want some advice or guidance because they think it's too small or they think they might look a bit silly. But when you've got them when you go and visit somebody in an office, you'll talk to one person and someone else will overhear and go, yeah, I've got that as well. Or they'll say, oh, this is how you do that. Why didn't you ask me how to do that? So we decided to use a video call to bring that community back into chatting to each other about IT inside the companies, and it's worked well.
Yeah, it has. Yeah, it's been good.
The only thing that we probably did wrong on that is we waited too long to offer that. We should have done that earlier down in the lockdown, maybe like 3 months earlier. But it wasn't until October that we decided to start offering those, and pretty much all clients have taken them up.
Yes, they have indeed. Yep. I'll dip in with a little bit of more personal updates in October. By October, I had got my running. I think I may have done 10K at this point. I may be able to go and do 10K in a day at that point. So my running had really improved, and it shows that anybody can do this. If you consistently stick at something, you improve and you get better at it and you enjoy it. It doesn't matter what it is. I chose running, and it's good. I also got my eldest daughter to learn to swim. We'd been sneaking to the swim baths on Saturdays and stuff like that because it's super quiet in the lot, this period. No one went. They're all scared. So it was ace. And Dixie managed to do her doggy paddle all the way width across the pool. And I was really chuffed as a co-parent, single parent. I don't have my kids all the time. That was something I did with her, and I enjoyed that.
Good stuff.
Yep.
Now we move on to November.
November, yeah.
How many second lockdown started?
Yeah, we had that lockdown that when you look back on it now wasn't a proper one, but it was a bit of a lockdown.
And they started the tiers.
Yeah, tiers, correct.
You joined an online networking event and you absolutely loved it. You thought it was the best thing in the world.
No, I was invited to an online networking club where they used to meet at a pub and have a dinner and stuff and typical networking, and they did it online. I joined it, and it was just the usual stuff. It doesn't work unless there's somebody in the group that is in line for your business. It's not going to work. It's all this, you've got to refer somebody else, and it's weary and old. I don't like it.
Kimbley IT Podcast was a smash again. We had Kevin Birdie, who's a big hitter in the world of Google Workspace as well, who helped bring Whirlpool, the company, the organization, the corporation, to at the time G Suite and now called Google Workspace. I got to say that was probably one of my most enjoyable podcasts of the year. That one with Kevin Birdie. It was just it was great chatting to him and talking about Prince and stuff like that because he's a big Prince fan.
Yeah,
I'm a big Michael Jackson fan, so it was we had stuff in common.
Yeah, it was good, exciting, lively, classical American. I like you, techie American. It was good man.
This is the interesting one. We had a bit of a not falling out, well, sort of falling out with a client in that they got they were having some problems with their. Do you want to go through this one? You might say it more diplomatically than I do.
Yeah, they wanted Google Voice. And we said, yeah, no worries. Get rid of your own phone system, transfer over. So we started porting them, moved it over. They had some Samsung mobile phones for the app. And they had this problem where they were saying they were missing phone calls all the time and it wasn't ringing. And we were doing these tests. And every time I tested it, it rang on the computer and it rang on the phone. And they couldn't work out why.
And in the logs, it was showing that Google Voice was working.
Yeah, the logs from Google were all showing it was working. It was very confusing because, of course, I couldn't be on site to see it because of lockdown. And eventually it turned, I said to you, you know, the internet router there's a bit naff. And you went, well, what is it? And I said, it's this cheap piece of kit. And you were like, I don't like the sound of that. I bet it's that.
It's a billion one, yeah. And billions are okay, but they're not compatible with something that's this
7 years old. Like I'd seen it 2 years ago. It's old.
Way that's the router. Then the router's not able to see it, send out. The router's too occupied with all the data that's going in there that it can't send out the signal to the mobiles quick enough that, hey, there's a phone call coming in. And by the time it has, and it's gone to the mobile, well, it's gone to voicemail now because it's rung out.
Yep. And it turned out that eventually we agreed to disagree and they got rid of Google Voice and they went back to using another system we didn't know about. And then the owner of the business came back and said, actually, guys, we found out that the new system we bought wouldn't work either. And they told us it was the router, which we'd said, and it had to be replaced. It was replaced, and now their cloud system works. And so they kind of know that Google Voice would have worked as well, which is always frustrating in IT because sometimes you just know you've got enough experience to know what will and won't work and why, and you know that you're right.
Just the feeling, you know, like when you're playing with a network and stuff like that. You just have a feeling. I know exactly where that problem is, and I know what's causing it. I might not be able. I haven't got the stuff at the moment to show it, but I know that's it. I know if I swap it out, it'll be sorted.
Yeah. So that was a little frustrating, but actually, it's all come round. It's worked out, and I think the customer's fine again. They're happy. They have got a system that works for what they need to do. So we're all right now.
And then finally, in November, that Wi-Fi installation that we spoke about earlier, that got cancelled because of NHS test and trace.
Yeah.
That got installed. Finally got installed in November. It was originally planned for, was it March when I said that the NHS test and trace? So quite a few months later, and it was an amazing installation. The guys did a brilliant job. The MD went around there and he just didn't understand how the network was working because all he could see was these new Unifi. Because this was retrofitted into a building as well. It wasn't part of a brand new building being built, and all you could see was the Unifi access points around the place, but no cabling. It's like, where's the cables? Surely you must be running cables down here. You can't have gone through the roof and stuff like that. And the guys did an absolutely amazing installation. The best one I think they've ever done.
Yeah, it was good. Yeah. Bang on that.
And then finally,
December.
That was a quiet month, apart from the flooding. So we have a client who had recently moved offices at the start of this year. And in their previous office, it had been quite a small office, so they were using Google Home Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
Which would work perfectly. It was able to handle 40 plus devices without an issue. And it was working well. But when they moved to their new offices, it just couldn't do it. It just didn't have the range because their new offices were over 2 floors, glass partitions and all that kind of stuff. So earlier in the year, we'd actually been speaking about, let's replace these. So you got proper Wi-Fi in there. And then the original lockdown came in place and all of them have been working from home ever since. In November, they started to slowly come back to the office and they were getting some Wi-Fi issues, especially with some of the Chromebooks. The Chromebooks were actually struggling to connect with the Google Home Wi-Fis that are in there. So, okay, let's get this sorted and swapped out now. So I went over in December thinking it'd be a half an hour job just to unplug the Google Home Wi-Fis and plug in the new Unifis. And how wrong was I, Carl? 3 hours wrong.
It was brutal. You were like, every time you brought me a new issue, I was like, right, okay. I was having to unpick layers. Like, we've got to undo this, we've got to undo that. And you're like, oh no, we've got to undo this now, I've got to configure this. That was horrible.
Basically rebuilt the whole network in 3 hours inside their office. I was in the cabinet, unplugging cables, rerouting stuff, plugging things back in. And one of the issues was at the start of lockdown, they'd ended their telephone contract with their old provider because they'd moved to Google Voice. Yeah. And the old provider kit was still in there because the old provider hadn't come and collected it or unplugged anything. Yeah. And they'd made some proper. There's a mess what they'd done to their cabinet as well, so you couldn't really see what the cables were that they'd plugged in there originally. So And we had to remove all that stuff as well, because we just had to strip it down and start over again, because we couldn't work out where some of the IP addresses were coming from and things like that. So it took a while, but got it sorted in the end.
We did, yeah. It was hard. It was a little frustrating at times, and then my brain started to get back into gear, because of course I was looking at stuff I hadn't looked at for over a year, and we sorted it in the end. We got through it. It was a classic man on site, man remote fixing situation.
And then we had our final podcast, excluding this one, which is technically 2020. We had our final podcast of the year, which with Paul Lees, founder of Best Spins Labs, also a heavyweight in the Google world, who made some. He's made a company that he founded, which is one of the biggest partners with Google, and a lot of extensions and add-ons that they've created for the Google Workspace. And he's working on his own extensions and stuff like that. And that now, and it turned out to be a great podcast, and the longest we've ever done.
Yes, because you asked him the question, give me a brief history of your life, which was a brave question to ask him, because he did. It wasn't brief.
We got the whole history of Paul's life, so definitely go and listen to that podcast if you want to know more about Paul. It was a great episode, and he will be coming back on later at some point. He's already asked for his round 2, which I've agreed to.
Oh, okay, cool.
That'll be at some point, maybe in a year's time. But that was our recap of the year, and we thought we'd just finish off by just mentioning some good things that everyone's been talking about how bad 2020 is, but actually, I think 2020 has been a bloody good year for the whole part, and we wanted to talk about the good stuff. And the main thing is it's changed medical technology forever, in that, coronavirus came out at the start of the year, and 9 months later, there's a vaccine, but it's not just any old vaccine. It's a brand new technology vaccine. It's an mRNA vaccine, which is a new way of doing it. Previously, it used to always be like dead strains of the vaccine or neutralized ones that they'd insert into them.
The AstraZeneca one is based around that, and it can't be given to people, for example, who are allergic to eggs.
What's this, the AstraZeneca?
Yes.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that one, but usually vaccine involves testing on eggs. So it involves the salmonella in the egg. And if there's people who are allergic to that, they can't usually have vaccines, because it's using a technology, it's based around eggs. And of course, the Pfizer one is completely new in how it works.
Yeah, it's a messenger in that it sends a message to the body. So almost like inserting some RNA into your body with a message of what you need to produce. And then your body produces it and goes, actually, this isn't a good thing to produce, so I'm going to go and kill it. And that's how
it's much more the future, isn't it? The Pfizer one is clearly the future. It has some idiosyncrasies of its temperature at the moment, because it's the first time they've ever done it.
Yeah, but one good thing is with the Pfizer one and stuff like that, the guys have said that if a new variant does come out, that is different, and the current mRNA doesn't. It will only take us about a month to 6 weeks to be able to produce a new one that will kill a new variant of the coronavirus. And it won't even go through testing again either, because it will just be minute changes. It doesn't value it to need to be tested out again on people.
I get you. That's a bit like when you see people said about the spice drug, and they make it illegal, and then the criminals would just manipulate the chemical formula slightly so it's not illegal. And it's the same thing with this vaccine. They can just slightly tweak it for the new version.
Two very useful tools we have now. We've got Crispr, which allows you to edit and snip DNA. Mm-hmm. So it's about designer babies, where you could say, okay, I want to cut out the ginger hair DNA strand, so there's no chance of them having ginger hair when they get born. Okay. You can also insert DNA, so you could say, actually, this baby, or it doesn't even have to be a baby, it can be someone who's alive, who's got poor eyesight. You could then, with CRISPR, go in and manipulate their DNA to start building proteins to repair their eyesight, bring their eyesight back, or bring it to a next level. There's actually on Netflix, there's a documentary on it at the moment called Unnatural Evolution, I believe it's called, something along those lines. That's all about DNA and CRISPR. It's open source, so anyone can do this. Actually, there's lots of biohackers, they're called, and you can go and hack your own DNA if you want to. But RNA is just another phase of that, in that it's giving us way more powers to manipulate how our bodies work. So our mRNA vaccines will probably be able to be used now to eliminate cancers, dementia, Parkinson's disease, things like that, with their because they can be tooled to match the specific person, and they're super cheap to make and manufacture and create. So it's just it's the next level. So 2020, everyone says bad year, but actually, because of 2020, if you survive coronavirus, you'll probably live much longer, just because you're going to have all these new vaccines Literally the only problem is that it gets a bit technical, but you don't want to be vaccinated too much because then your body can't defend itself, in that it can't do its own defenses because it's just relying on vaccines all the time. But overall, you should potentially live longer now because of 2020 if you survive coronavirus.
Yeah, I know what you mean. You have to try and find the positives in a negative, and this one is probably the biggest one, without a doubt. It's just knocked off 10 years off that whole process.
Yeah, no vaccine's ever going to take that long to come to market anymore, especially with mRNA. That's just so quick that you can do that and trial it.
Yep.
And then I think the other big thing of 2020 was just tech. Everyone always puts tech on the side. They're not that interested in it, business owners and things like that. But I think a lot of them have realised, without technology, they wouldn't have had a company.
They think that, don't they? People think they're not interested in tech, but then you talk to them and they go, well, I've got this phone and this app and this car and this console. And you're like, well, you know what? Tech's a huge part of your life. You just don't think it is.
Just interested how it works.
Yes. That's fine. They don't need to know how it works.
Because of tech, it allowed everyone to continue living. Imagine, like we said, this happened in the 1990s or even like 10 years earlier, 10 years before, back in 2008 and stuff like that. But 1990s, that would be it. You'd have no information. You'd not have any food delivered to your door. There's no Amazon, so everyone's going to be out shopping and stuff like that. Technology,
hundreds of times worse. Social unrest, all sorts. A military deployment, martial law. It would have been nasty. Yeah.
Literally, the only thing you could argue that would be better is you'd have less disinformation because it can't spread as much.
In fact, as you think about it, what you would have had is just lots of people die. Just lots of people would have had to have died.
Anti-maskers and less anti-virus people because they just can't gather together and communicate and stuff like that. Yeah. But you then only have official, in inverted brackets, of government reports of what's going on, and we know that the UK government hasn't been completely open on where they're getting their statistics from and stuff like that, refusing to reveal it. So is that there's pluses and minuses to both, but yeah, without doubt, the fact that we live in 2020 and we've got this technology, that was a huge bonus in fighting this virus.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. We've also seen that the fear of video calling has pretty much been overcome.
Oh yeah, that's a good one.
Because people never used to like that. They always wanted a phone call or turn the camera off.
Yeah. You ask people now if they want a video call, they'll do it, and I say 90% of people won't have the camera turned off; they'll have it turned on now.
Yeah, they're pretty cool with it now. Most people, there's still a few oddballs out there that don't like it, but mostly people are pretty cool with it now.
It's very odd for the other person as well if you don't have your camera turned on and they do, and they're just talking to your silhouette.
Yeah, I've never got it. I know people don't like looking at themselves or hearing their own voice, but you don't hear your own voice like you do into playback. You hear your own voice audibly as you speak, so it's normal. It just seems weird that people don't like it.
I said to you years prior to this was that the problem with video calling is it shows you a little green room before you enter the main call, which is a preview of you on the camera and stuff like that, and then people hit the turn the camera off. If they didn't do that and it just dropped you straight into the room, that would get rid of that problem.
Product doesn't do that.
Pardon?
Do you know which product doesn't do that?
Zoom?
Yep.
And that's why it's taken off.
Zoom doesn't. Zoom shows a white thing that says click to join with audio when meeting starts. That's it. You don't see yourself.
They know it. That's why they've dominated. Absolutely dominated. I shared a graph. You saw the graph that I shared a few days ago? And Zoom is just so far ahead of Google Meet and Microsoft Teams. It's just they like have double or triple the amount of users.
Yeah, it's a verb. Yeah. It's become a verb. It entered the lexicon of language.
And interestingly, with Zoom is now looking at building out an office suite as well with email and stuff like that, because they know that when stuff comes back to normal, people might not use Zoom as much because they'll actually we can just use Google Meet and Teams because we're already paying for that. Why do we need Zoom as well? A lot of people bought Zoom because they were panicking. And there's a lot of people, we've got clients who've got Zoom licenses, even though they've got Google Meet, and they just panicked because they needed Zooms. Everyone's got Zoom, we need Zoom.
Yep.
And at some point that will die down. So that's why they need to build out a suite of tools as well.
They got a long way to go there. Yeah.
But that's it for this recap of the year podcast, and we will actually be back next week, and we may or may not have a guest. Still trying to negotiate that.
Okay.
But, that's it for our recap of 2020.
Yeah, that's it. It's a year of A tremendous year that I'll never forget in my life, and I don't think any of my family members will. I am glad to see the back of it, but as we've discussed today, there are also many positives that come out of it. Yeah, certainly an interesting year in the 46 that I've done so far, James.
Good one.
Nearly,
Well,
47.
2021 might turn out the same or very similar.
Well, I think it is certainly for the first bit, but we'll see. I expect my mum and dad to get their vaccines, according to Boris, by mid-February, so we will see.
Your parents both in their 70s?
Yeah, mum's 70, dad's 75. So, yeah, they're bang on the thing to be the first set that he said last night, mid-February, so we'll see.
Good stuff.
Okay, that's it then.
We'll speak to everyone in a week's time.
Yeah, we'll see you later, guys.
Bye.
Bye.